purchasing, and purchasing then pays it. And so that's the oversight, in her opinion, in the state's opinion, the oversight is from purchasing, but purchasing just gets a bill and pays it. They don't actually like look at it and see if the work's done.
Does Ms. Willis do that? Is she required to approve these bills submitted by the special counsel?
So the contracts indicate that the bills are submitted to her. She doesn't sign off on all of them. A lot of them were signed off on by other people in her office, purchasing people and things like that. So there's no evidence that I was able to find that she actually scrutinized these bills or reviewed them or anything like that, but she may have.
Okay. And you mentioned that attorneys that are working for state agencies or whatever, including the special assistant attorney generals, submit bills on a like itemized statement on what services they've rendered?
Yes, and the attorney general has very specific guidelines on that. What you can bill for, how you have to bill, and is told to remind. There's a reminder that this is public service. So essentially be judicious in your billing.
Right. Voluntarily get underpaid to be able to help the public.
And a lot of people view it as public service.
Are those bills submitted in like tenths of? I do some billing, in my job, and it's usually tenth of an hour.
Yes.
Are there rules or guidelines or sort of standards of practice and how you bill?
Yes. So most law firms, I know because my husband used to work at a law firm, is 6-minute increments, and that's how most lawyers bill in the private sector. Public, it appears that most of them are in 10-minute increments. I know that that's what all of the indigent defense groups, they all are 10-minute increments, but I've never seen anything above that.
Okay. And on the open records request you made to the other judicial circuits, how did those outside counsel bill?
I honestly, I would have to go back and look. They were very small bills, though. They were making less than $2,000 a year, so they were small bills, and they were project based, which I think is also different. They would be hired to do a certain project.
If Ms. Willis had hired a employee, one of these 55 employees, and tasked them with the job of going through a special grand jury process and helping seek indictments, investigate these allegations, what's the most they could have made?
Well, first, she couldn't have hired Mr. Wade because it violates county policy. So she would hire Mr. Wade as an employee.
How does that violate county policy?
They have a lot of policies on nepotism, relationships, personal. But I don't know that those would be big factors. The few that were remaining, I think it was Augusta that I haven't received one from. But I talked with 2 of the prosecutors in those districts. There's only 2 that actually use something that would be akin to this. And one of them said they haven't done it in years, but they have done it. And they paid between $40 and $40 an hour, which tends to be about the going rate for appointed counsel. It's between $40 and $60 an hour, I know, for appointed counsel in most counties. And then the other county that did use them, they use a part-time solicitor. And that DA said every time that they would have maybe some overflow work, an appeal or something that they had extra work to do, they would hire this part-time solicitor. So it was someone who was already a government employee, and they would pay $45 an hour for this person to do work. So those are the only people. This is a very unique to Fulton County, which I assumed, but I didn't know until I did the research. Nobody does this but Fulton County. And the AG's office does it. And so we got a lot of arguments from the state about, well, the Attorney General's office does it, but that's a whole different statute. It's not even the same section. So the Attorney General is authorized because they represent all of the state agencies. They are authorized to hire outside counsel, and they have to because there's a lot of conflict issues. And so it makes sense. So you've got different needs for hiring outside counsel. You've got conflicts if there's a conflict. And if there's a conflict, you'd have to hire someone who's outside of the office. You couldn't hire someone like in this case, like Mr. Wade, to be special counsel because they're in the office. So you can't, when you have a legal conflict, you have to have the offices have to be separate.
All right, this is Ashley Merchant, and she is an investigator, an attorney who is speaking in front of the Georgia Senate right now on a hearing. And what they're trying to do is disqualify Fani Willis from the Donald Trump case. There's been a lot of breaking news in that whole situation in the last 24 hours. And so this is, again, Ashley, what is her name? I just said it. But you've seen her a lot in the, whenever Fani Willis went viral with her whole response, this is the lady that she was responding to when she got on the stand the day that people said she had on the dress backwards. I don't know if it was, I don't know. I don't even know that was important. But Ashley Merchant, this is her.
So with the AG, that's usually what happens. Sometimes it's specialized knowledge. I mean, you've got people who are representing commissioners, you've got people who are representing, people in certain agencies in the state, in certain types of power. And so it might be a specialized practice area. So the Attorney General is authorized, and they actually publish it on their website, all of the rates. It's very transparent. So I went through and looked at everybody's rate. I mean, it's very transparent. How much they pay, it's based on experience. They get approval for that. They get approval for the appropriations for it. And it's just extremely in direct contradiction to how it works in Fulton County.
And do you know how many judicial districts we have in Georgia? I don't.
I do not. I could look at my open records request. So the judicial districts, there would be a district attorney for each of those. And so those are who I sent all of those.
It's over 50.
It's over 50. I think it's 59, but I'm not positive.
That's what I think.
I think it's 59.
So out of those 59, you reached out to all of them to see if their district attorney's offices for each judicial circuit ever utilized a special assistant, outside counsel.
Yes.
Okay. And out of those, only 3 of them have ever done it?
Only 2.
Only 2.
Only 2 had ever done
Fulton
it.
County is one of them.
Only 2. Well, yes. I'm sorry. It's 3 counting Fulton County.
Okay.
I did not send an open records to Fulton County on that because I already knew that they did it.
Is there a statute that authorizes that?
There is a statute, and I cite it, if I may, I cite it in my brief.
Feel free.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to misquote it. Let's see. So it's 15-80-20. And how I came to learn that is I actually contacted the Prosecuting Attorneys Council early on in this case, and because I was trying to figure out the legality of this. I did open records and I found out how much money the special counsels in this case were being paid. And there's about 20 different people in Fulton County that are paid under this type of arrangement. It's the largest personnel budget item in the DA's office.
Why wouldn't you just hire more assistant DAs and have them in-house?
That's what I didn't understand. And that's what, I mean, in my opinion, obviously, I think that's what should happen. But the reason that it wouldn't happen is because if you're hired as an assistant DA, you can't take private work. So the statutes and
they are, what it sounds like, they are really going after Fani Willis.
they're all in section 1518, 15-18. The one that gives the authority for this is 20. But all of those, if you read all of them, it makes it very clear that if you're going to hire more assistant DAs, they have to be paid the statutory rate. So you can't just pay an assistant DA anything you want. You could not pay them $300,000, something like that.
What is that statutory rate?
I don't know.
I wonder if she being Fani Willis regrets going into that church prior to any of the legal aspect of this thing taking place.
know it off the top of my head, but it is in the statute. I know that like District Attorney Willis, for example, I think it's around $200,000, and that's one of the top paid people. So most of the people are paid, somewhere between 100 and 150,000, something like that, depending on their role, depending on county supplements. So what the statute says is it gives a state salary, and then you can get a county supplement. But all of that is around that range. I'd say around $150,000. But there's limitations. So to answer your question, why you wouldn't just hire an assistant district attorney, first, they couldn't make as much money as independent counsels, or I'm sorry, not independent, special counsels, couldn't make that much money, but they also would be limited in their law practice. They wouldn't be able to have private practice, and that's by statute. So if you are hired as an assistant DA, you cannot have a private law practice also.
Do you know how many there are in Fulton County DA's office?
How many special prosecutors?
No, how many assistant district attorneys?
No, I actually open records that, and it was declined. So we actually have a pending open records lawsuit, which I did bring. I asked for that. I asked for how many were hired, when they were hired, when they were fired, and they declined to give me that under the Open Records Act. So we ended up filing a lawsuit, and that's still pending.
Because it just occurs to me, I think there's certainly dozens of them.
Yes.
Maybe 100.
I think 100 would be a fair example, or a fair number based on just my knowledge of it. But there's quite a few, and if you had a certain amount of money that they spend several $1 million on these special prosecutors, that could be spent.
And this is the lady, one of the ladies, who Nathan Wade's friend and attorney gave a bunch of information to. So once Nathan Wade's partner, who got Terrence, what was his last name? But anyway, after he got put out of Nathan Wade's law firm, I don't think Nathan Wade understood the amount of animosity that he had, because this guy Terrence, who was Nathan Wade's divorce lawyer on paper, again, they were law partners at one point, but I don't think he understood the amount of animosity that Terrence had for Nathan, because he gave all the information that this lady needed, and it seems to be quite a few people that's been working with Miss Ashley Merchant here in the takedown of Fani Willis. This is quite interesting. Quite interesting. And this is outside of, this is another hearing. This is not the other one about the relationship. The judge already is already going to decide on that within the next 2 weeks. But what we're looking at now is a Senate hearing. This is live.
And a lot more assistant district attorneys.
This, I'll begin. Ms. Merchant, you are here under a subpoena, testify. Who's saying anything, let me know. The way our procedures work is that I will be asking the questions, and minority party will have an opportunity upon request to ask questions as well. I've discussed this with the minority whip, Senator Jones, and he may or may not ask questions towards the conclusion, or maybe even at a break. If you want to, just let me know. Ms. Merchant, would you please just identify yourself and let the committee know? You see all our name tags to see who's on here. You know who we are, but let us know who you are and what your profession is, background, et cetera.
Definitely. My name is Ashley Merchant. My first name is spelled A-S-H-L-E-I-G-H. Last name Merchant, M-E-R.
You're going to need to pull that mic a little closer to you.
Thank you. And is it okay? I have a notepad just in case I get two questions at the same time. I like to make a note to make sure that I remember.
The committee knows the rules. We passed them unanimously at our last meeting, and you actually have the right to counsel if you want to. It's not like a court proceeding where we're going to be having objections, et cetera. But Since you are an attorney, apparently you're very comfortable responding. Okay,
Yes.
didn't mean to cut you off. Let's
That's
just
okay.
make sure everybody can hear you there.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I was sworn in as a member of the bar in 2004. So I've been a criminal defense attorney for 20 years. I started out when I first graduated from law school. I came to Atlanta and I did an externship with the Southern Center for Human Rights. And then once I was sworn in as a member of the bar, I became a public defender in Fulton County. I was there for 4.5 years until I started my private practice, the Merchant Law Firm. We had an office in Fulton County at first. Now we're in Cobb County. I'm in practice with my husband, John Merchant, and we do criminal defense primarily.
And do you have any other roles or affiliations? I've seen just press articles about you.
Yes. Yes. So I do. I've been very blessed to have a lot of active roles in the community. I was the former president of the Cobb County Bar Association Criminal Defense Section. I was sworn in January as the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I've been a member of that for 20 years, member of the Cobb County Bar Association, very active in both of those roles. I've been honored with several different awards, one from the Cobb County Bar Association, Defender of Justice, or Champion of Justice, I'm sorry, a couple years ago. And then, I've been honored with Rising Star Awards, Super Lawyers, and the Daily Report has different awards back when I was younger, 40 under 40. Wouldn't qualify, unfortunately, for that anymore. But, and then recently I was awarded at our annual meeting for the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I was very honored to receive award about my work defending the Constitution.
Also still awaiting a decision in another hearing that we've been following. Days of fiery testimony, you might remember, ended last Friday in a hearing to decide if DA Willis should be disqualified from the election interference case against former President Donald Trump and others. Well, the court heard from DA Willis, Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, and Wade's former law partner, Terrence Bradley, among others. Now, Judge Scott McAfee says he will make a decision within the next 2 weeks. But before that decision is made, the defense team now wants the judge to hear new testimony. New court filings now claim that 2 people would be able to come forward and offer testimony that contradicts what DA Willis, Wade, and Bradley said in court about when Willis and Wade's prior relationship started. They are Cobb County prosecutor Cindy Lee Yeager and attorney Manny Aurora. Now, according to one court filing, Yeager decided to speak up after seeing Bradley's testimony, claiming he didn't know when the Willis relationship started. As of right now, the judge has not ruled on the motions to hear that new testimony. Right now, we are still waiting on a decision in the case to disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The judge, you might remember, said on Friday he will decide within 2 weeks if he will remove them from the 2020 Georgia election interference case. Lawyers for former President Donald Trump and others charged in the case argue Willis hired Wade when they were romantically involved, and then she benefited financially from their trips and dinners. Lawyers for the DA's office insist there is absolutely no conflict of interest. Well, tonight at 6, a look at what we can expect in the coming weeks and the impact this might have if DA Fani Willis announces a bid for re-election.
Defense lawyers in the Fulton County election interference case say they have more evidence proving the timeline of Fani Willis' former relationship with her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade. The defense says Cobb County Co-Chief Deputy DA Cindy Lee Yeager and defense attorney Manny Aurora can testify Terrence Bradley told them Wade and Willis were romantically involved in 2019 and 2020. That is far earlier than the former couple testified in court. The attorneys want the two to testify again before Judge Scott McAfee rules. Judge McAfee said he was done hearing evidence on Friday.
District Attorney Fani Willis could soon be disqualified from Trump's election interference case.
Yep.
Lauren, what's the latest on this?
Well, it's all about the timing. When did Willis start her relationship with the special prosecutor Wade? Was it before she hired him? If it was, it means she hired her boyfriend, and that's a conflict of interest. Willis and Wade have said, well, our relationship started after she hired him. But, and it's a big but, the defense reportedly wants to put a witness on the stand who says, number one, they had been lovers, And number two, that Willis warned Wade's attorney to keep the relationship quiet.
Prosecutorial misconduct.
Grounds for disqualification.
Absolutely. Okay.
So you say. So you
A witness in the
say.
Fulton County DA disqualification proceedings met with a judge behind closed doors today, and it was confirmed by 11 Alive by 2 attorneys involved with the case.
The meeting comes as attorneys for former President Donald Trump and his co-defendants seek to remove both District Attorney Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade from the case, alleging they inappropriately benefited financially from a romantic relationship. 11 Alive's Zach Merchant has been tracking the controversy ever since it began. He's joining us now to explain today's newest developments. Zach?
Well, the witness at the center of today's proceeding is Terrence Bradley, a former law partner and one-time divorce attorney for Nathan Wade. And today, Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee met with Bradley to determine whether attorney-client privilege bars him from answering questions from defense lawyers. It's an issue that almost never got to this point. At a hearing on February 16th, defense attorneys spent hours trying to get Bradley to share what he knows about when Willis and Wade's relationship began. He said he couldn't answer, arguing any information he may have is protected by attorney-client privilege from his time representing Wade in his divorce. Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee seemed ready to accept that argument until Bradley gave an answer late in the day that appeared to reopen the issue.
Now I'm left wondering if Mr. Bradley has been properly interpreting privilege this entire time.
Judge McAfee called
Mr.
Bradley
Bradley
to a
is
closed-door meeting today to try to solve that problem and decide what information is privileged and what is not. Former DeKalb County District Attorney Robert James says the judge will likely have asked Bradley direct questions about what he knows and how he knows it.
They were trying to parse and say, well, okay, well, what came up in legal communications versus this person being your friend and your law partner? Was there conversation around the office? Was there social communication? And if you can extract that from or extricate that from the legal communication, then that's going to be admissible because they won't be privileged.
If Judge McAfee determines Bradley asserted privilege improperly, he may have to return to the witness stand and face more questions under oath.
And, if he does say that the relationship started, before the time that, DA Willis and Nathan Wade have said, then, it's going to be a bombshell.
But that is a big if. James today cautioned that right now it's impossible to know for sure what information Bradley possesses or if it will have any impact on the actual underlying legal question of whether the prosecutors should be removed from the case. We won't start to have concrete answers until, at the very earliest, Judge McAfee decides whether Bradley will have to get back on the witness stand. James said that ruling will likely come sometime this week, ahead of oral arguments scheduled for Friday.
Breaking news now live at 5. Arguments have just ended in the hearing to decide whether Fulton County DA Fani Willis should be dropped from the Georgia election indictment case.
Now, this all stemmed from her relationship with the top prosecutor in her office. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is live at 5 from downtown Atlanta for us. So, Doug, this is now in the hands of the judge. How soon could he decide?
Right. Well, we actually have the answer to that question, Alan. This is now in the hands, as you said, of Judge Scott McAfee, who said he will make his decision in the next 2 weeks. So that is the timeline that he gave us on the way out of court today. Of course.
And new evidence is still coming in. So who knows? Who knows? Yos. Who actually knows these things? That's the question I'm asking. Who knows? Oh, Fani. living a life playing games. So Nikki Haley is gone, huh? She's finito.